You ever wonder why we are reaching for the bottle when we're grieving? Why, even when we know it's not really helping, it still feels like the only way to not feel sad? I want to talk about that today. If you're going through grief and finding yourself drinking more than usual, this is for you. Here's what I've realized. We drink because we're hurting. We drink because grief brings up emotions so raw and overwhelming that our nervous system goes, nope, too much, let's numb this. And alcohol, it works, at least for a little while. It's like putting a blanket over a fire. You don't see the flames anymore, but the heat is still there, quietly smoldering underneath. For me, I wasn't drinking to have fun. I was drinking to escape, to avoid the grief that scared me, to push away the pain I didn't know how to face. When I finally stopped drinking, I had this moment of clarity. I realized that all I had been doing was running from my emotions I didn't want to feel. The sadness, the anger, the guilt, the confusion, and here's the hard truth no one really talks about. Once I stopped drinking, all those buried emotions came flooding back. And honestly, in the beginning, when they surfaced, my instinct was to escape again. But this time I said no to alcohol because there had to be another way. So I had to actually sit with them, with my emotions, feel them, process them. And slowly, that's what started my healing. Not the numbing, not the pretending, but the sitting, the crying, the breathing, the being with the pain instead of away from it. Here's what's important to know if you're in grief and using alcohol to cope. Alcohol numbs emotions, but only temporarily. It buries the grief, but it doesn't dissolve it. When you stop drinking, that grief is still there, waiting. It can delay the healing process. What you avoid now, you eventually have to deal with. Alcohol can push the pain down, but it often makes it louder and more tangled when it finally returns. Another one is it can turn into silent cycles. You feel pain, you drink, you feel numb. Guilt and sadness resurface, you drink again. It feels like survival, but it slowly erodes your emotional resilience. Another thing is you start losing touch with what you really need. Grief needs expression, it needs movement. Alcohol stops that. It freezes the grief in place. So why did I stop? I had to be real with myself. I had to be honest and ask, is this the life that I want to continue living? Where will I end up if I don't stop drinking? I tried to imagine it very vividly and I didn't like the answer that I got. So I decided to find another way because I was disgusted by the future that was ahead of me. So I stopped completely and felt everything that was going on inside of me. And over time, I got stronger. Not because the grief disappeared, but because I stopped running from it. If you're grieving and drinking more than usual, here's what I want you to know. You are not broken. You are a human being trying to survive something unbelievably painful. But numbing your pain will never make it disappear. It just delays the moment where you finally get to let it move through you. You don't have to quit drinking overnight, but maybe just try pausing it. Try asking yourself, what am I feeling right now that I don't want to feel? And then sit with that for even a minute longer than yesterday. That is healing, that's courage. That's a version of self-care we don't talk about enough. Grief is a journey, there's no perfect way to go through it. But if alcohol has been your way of coping and it's starting to hurt you more than it helps, you can make a change. You're allowed to face your pain. You're allowed to feel it. And you're allowed to come out on the other side more whole, not because you ignored your grief, but because you walked through it. It's essential for you to feel what is going on inside of you. So please, put alcohol aside and feel what is going on inside of you. Stop numbing and truly feel your grief.